video, we'll be going over IRS Notice CP59. This is a notice you might receive from the IRS if you did not file an income tax return known as a Form 1040, but you were required to. So we'll go through this notice and kind of walk through what you may need to do and things of that nature. What I want to do is start at the top right hand corner. We'll kind of go through some key information that might help you out. So at the very top right hand corner, you see the notice number CP59 for the tax year ending 2017. The notice date in this case was January 28th, 2019. Now, I always advise people to pay very close attention to the notice date because it may impact your timelines when it comes to your options. And usually when the IRS asks you to take a specific action, they'll tie your time frame to the notice date. So I'll take a quick scroll through just to see if there's any timelines that pop out here. I don't see anything on the I don't see anything right here, but let's go through the rest of this notice and maybe something will pop out at us. So social security number, contact phone number, and some other miscellaneous information are up here. On the left hand side would be your taxpayer name and address. So you should always make sure that this is correct and up to date. If you've recently moved or changed addresses, you'll want to make sure that this reflects your changed address. If you file your Form 1040 the way most taxpayers do, the IRS will automatically update your tax record. If not, you can call the IRS. If you're going to call anyway, you can validate your information and you can change your address over the phone, or you can file an official IRS change of address notice. IRS Form 8822 for individual taxpayers, IRS Form 8822-B for business owners and other non-person entities. So let's go through this notice and see what we can pick out. And so the clear, I guess, bottom line is that the IRS noticed that you did not file a Form 1040. So what you should do is determine whether or not you're required to file a tax return. If you are, then you should file one. Obviously, this is beyond the tax return due date, which would be April 15th or the next business day of the following tax year. So April 15th of 2018. So you can file electronically within 2 years of the original due date. If you owe taxes, you'll probably owe a penalty plus any accrued interest. If you are due a refund, then you should file your tax return to get the refund. So you can do that. It's not too late just because you missed the filing deadline. If you don't think that you had to file a tax return, then you would complete a form that's enclosed in this document known as IRS Form 15103. I'll show you what this looks like. It's a 2-page form that you should have included with your notice, and you can fill out that information. At the time of this recording, I have not created an article or video for that, but when I do, I will update the links in the show notes with I will update the show notes with links to the article and the video that I create specifically on this tax form, especially since there aren't a whole lot of details on the IRS website about how to do this and what tax considerations you should account for. So if you already filed, send the IRS a signed and dated copy. This might have happened to taxpayers that file paper copies by mail. So this is a notice saying, hey, the IRS never got your tax return for some reason, so you should send a signed and dated copy along with your Form 15103. Or you can list out the reasons why you don't think you're required to file. So if you are under a certain income level, you don't necessarily have to file. There are other reasons why. So you can go through that form and apply the specific situation that applies to you. So the IRS, if they don't hear from you, then you might owe penalties and interest. They will go ahead and go through the information returns that may have been reported on your behalf. So 1099s, W-2s, things of that nature. If you're due a refund, then you have to claim it within basically 3 years of the due date. So if the due date was April 15th, 2018, in order to get that refund, you would have to file your tax return by April 15th, 2021. So that is a compelling reason if you're owed a refund. But if you received income and you didn't file, then you could be subject to backup withholding, meaning that future payments, your payers will withhold a certain amount of the payments. So if you're receiving 1099 income on dividends or interest, then the IRS will go to the bank or the financial institution and direct them to subject you to backup withholding. So this is kind of a forcing function for people that don't file tax returns when they should. Again, this won't happen to individuals that aren't required to file a tax return. These are just some of the steps that the IRS can take if you should have filed a tax return but you did not. So the IRS will contact you if they need additional information or if they determine that you do in fact need to file a tax return for that year. So, and then there are some references to payment options, even if you, even though there isn't a stated tax liability here, if you do file a tax return, you can pay electronically. You can file a tax return and then, request an installment plan or an online payment plan for any taxes that you might owe. You could submit an offer in compromise, which indicates to the IRS that you can't pay the full amount, but you can offer a certain amount either as a lump sum or as periodic payments, and the IRS can choose whether or not they wish to accept that offer in compromise. So, and then if you've already taken action or you've paid your balance in full, you can disregard the notice. And then there's additional information. We'll get to that in just a moment. We're going to kind of go through and see what the rest of this notice has. If you're considered a low income taxpayer or you think you may be considered a low income taxpayer, there is a resource known as a low income taxpayer clinic that can help you with preparing your tax return as well as getting tax assistance from the IRS. Let us see. This page is blank. And then on the back page, if you do respond to this, you can attach this stub with your completed form 15103. Be sure to use this IRS address when you're sending your correspondence back. The address that's included in your stub may be similar to the address in the letterhead, but it's not always the same. So when in doubt, just defer to the address that's on the actual stub that you're going to cut out anyway. So let's take a quick look at what the IRS page says about this specific notice. It appears that there's not much information on this, but that's because that link was incorrect. So I redirected us to the correct link, and this is what we get. We basically get, what this notice is about. IRS does not have a record of you filing your tax return. What you should do is file or explain why you don't need to file. And then there are links to other resources that you can consult if you have specific questions. For example, who should file a tax return? So There is an income-based requirement for certain taxpayers. Of course, this is for the end of 2023. You would have to see what the filing requirement is for the specific year that the IRS is asking you to file for. So you can go through this just to see. You can file even if you don't have to, if you qualify for a tax credit, if you made tax payments, if basically you could be eligible for a refund. That would be a situation where you don't have to file a tax return, but you probably should. So, and then there are some frequently asked questions. What should I do if I disagree? Things of that nature. So this might be worth looking into. For example, here's a tax relief note about mortgage interest debt that was reduced or discharged. How does that affect your tax return? So on and so forth. So you can always check that link in addition to the specifics in your notice. So in this case, there's not a whole lot of particular information about your tax situation. So as I mentioned, we'll put links in the show notes to the appropriate forms and schedules mentioned during this video. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or comments, or if there's another topic that you'd like to see discussed in an upcoming video, please hit me up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.